Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of the RFG Rambling Film Group podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the special preview screening of Shazam that we attended over the weekend.
Yes.
It wasn't super exclusive. It's not like we just went to some really
we're not that cool.
We're some sort of insiders or anything like that. Anybody could have bought a ticket for this. We just happened to be some people that did.
There was surprisingly a lot of people in the theater.
There was.
I was honestly surprised.
I didn't know what it might have looked like, but
I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, apparently a lot of big Shazam fans, or a lot of DC fans, or just people fans of these movies in general nowadays. But before we dive into it, in case you're joining us for the first time, I want to introduce myself and the panel that I am on. I don't think that's the best way I could have said it.
His name's Charles,
I'm getting a little tired. My name's Charles. To my right, I have Kelsey.
Hi, guys.
And then with us remote, we have Sai.
Hey, everybody.
What would have been the best thing to say there?
The group I'm discussing with, the group I'm talking with, like that. There were so many options besides what you said.
You said you could have said I could introduce the members of the panel.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could have just added members to your statement.
Yeah. I could sign all of those. I stumbled. I'm human, like the rest of us. We stumble and fall. But anyways, let's jump into Shazam. Nicely done.
Thank you.
Does anybody want to start? Because I know I started the last conversation, so I want to open up the floor to So basically, it's you, Sai, because Kelsey went nose goes. So
we're in elementary school, but okay.
We do it pretty
No,
often.
I know we. It's not the first time we've done it on here. I certainly don't mind.
Okay, I believe that. Yeah.
When somebody has to make a decision, nose goes rules the household.
If you abide by the rules, it's surprisingly effective.
But yeah, no. So, it was definitely a fun movie. There were some key pieces to it. And again, we won't talk about specifics. That way everybody has time going into it. And they can give their opinion. But visually, as far as whether it was CGI or some of the fight scenes in that third act just didn't look great. It kind of suffered from just that. I think it was $90 million budget that they had. So I understand why I got what I got, but I just, coming off of what we saw visually for Aquaman, and even looking back at what Man of Steel was able to do with some of the flying scenes and fight scenes for over a decade later now.
That's not quite that long.
I said almost.
You said over right now.
I meant almost. I'm sorry. I meant to say almost.
I just want to throw it out there. It hasn't been that long.
Yeah, no, it definitely has not been that long. But yeah, almost a decade. For it to not even be comparable to what I got there, I would feel like you should be able to get close to what Man of Steel did with far less money at this point. Or maybe not far less, but less money.
But just technology, speaking for improvements. I got you. Yeah. That's probably fair, yeah.
And so, that was kind of a big letdown. I will say, I know a lot of people went into it and felt like the decision of who we got as a villain was kind of a bad choice. I will admit, by the end of the movie, it comes off as this was the perfect choice for what we got, what kind of character we got out of Shazam. So it was definitely a good choice as far as what they went with that aspect. I do love the overall actors, the parents were hilarious, but also they were still those, adult people trying to relate to teenage people, and it just doesn't always connect. And then you also just have especially in a household filled with adoption children, they all have very different personalities, and that is very evident. Each child is its very own different person. There's really not very many similarities, but yet they still come together and form a family relationship by the end of the movie, which was fantastic to see. So it was, I'll say, if I had to scale it out of 10, I'd give it like a 6.5, maybe a 7. I don't think it hurts DC moving forward. Like, it doesn't make me feel like DC is in jeopardy of anything anymore. But it certainly didn't like help push the DC's back on the map that I kind of was hoping it would. Again, considering what we got with Aquaman.
I would disagree with that, my friend.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I bet you it will end up doing like, excuse me, even if you don't like feel that way, because I might feel somewhat similar to you in like terms of like, I don't want to say disappointment, but just like
the visual stuff.
Could have been more in certain aspects, and I'll let you go. I'm just making a real quick point. But I do have I think this is going to be a hit. So, I don't think that's Aquaman money, but I think it's going to like.
So here's my statement on that. I don't think it should be a hit. I totally see like as a society, like as people who are going to go see it and the people whose opinions matter. Like, yes, I think overall their opinion will be that it probably should be a hit, but I just disagree that it probably shouldn't be a hit considering like what it is. And the budget that they had, again, it could have been better. So I'm kind of in the middle where I understand why people would consider it a hit. I just don't necessarily like look at it that way.
Gotcha.
So then I'm probably going to be the person on the panel who enjoyed the movie the most, given these two. For me, like I said, well, what was I saying? Frick. I went off of something what Sai had said, but now I can't remember.
And I surely can't remember.
Yeah. Oh, well, anyway.
Because that bitch a criminal. All right.
Oh, goodness.
I won't. I'm sorry.
Okay. So I really, really enjoyed Shazam. Frick, that's all I could think of. I just freaking see Batman. Anyway. I really, really enjoyed Shazam. I thought it was really funny and, like I said, charming and endearing. I think there are some good emotional and like heavier elements that fit the story, and so I thought it was a good balance for what we get, where we really get to see, like I said, we get to see it's a movie about a 14-year-old kid getting superpowers, so that comes across. But we also get to see him embracing the superpowers and, like Sai said, like kind of find a family and stuff like that. But I really, really enjoyed it. I thought the humor hit home. What did I say before? Oh, the humor comes naturally from the characters. So it's not like jokey humor, like in terms of like
cutting the tension.
Yeah,
and just, really placed in.
Yes.
Just
happening. Well, yeah, the humor is very natural from just how these characters and like the actors and actresses that portray them are in this situation. That's where it comes from. So it seems it's very natural, and so everything kind of lands because it's inherently funny for what you get to see. And then at the same time, the movie allows you to feel these emotional beats and moments and not cut away from them directly. It's about foster kids, and so you really get to see and feel some of those emotional moments, which I really appreciate, because I don't like when we try to set up like, there's some like heartwarming emotional things going on, but then like they don't actually let those breathe, or we just kind of pretend they don't happen, they're just in the back. Where this movie really lets you feel some of those things in those moments, and so that's great. But I really, really enjoyed it. I think this was a good opening for Shazam. Like Sai said, like some of the stuff in like the third act, just visually and things like that, are disappointing, and that probably does come from the fact that it had a minimal budget for what superhero movies are. Overall, I really enjoyed Shazam. I think it is one of the better DC movies to be released in theaters. So I'm not including BVS The Ultimate Edition because it was not released in theaters, so nobody jumped down my throat for that. But yes, I think it was great for what we got to saw. It's a good introduction to Shazam and to Billy Batson in particular. It's a good way so we set up like who he is, what he's going through, and all of this other stuff. Like Sai said, like the villain choice like by the end, I think it was a perfect villain, like a first time out villain for a first time out Shazam, basically. And so it just makes me that much more excited for when we do get to see Black Adam, because that's going to be, I think, fantastic and incredible. And I think this movie does a good enough job on its own to warrant a higher budget and to get people excited to see Shazam the next time out. So I am really excited to see like what we actually get with that new story, because he's a heavy hitter. Like Shazam, he's up there. So I'm excited to see somebody who is one of these top tier powers, because I think he's up there with Supes. He's up there with Martian Manhunter.
Diana.
Yeah, he absolutely is.
Arthur.
Yeah, like he's top tier. He's up there. So I am excited. I think this movie it's good enough. It's fun. It's lighthearted. I think it's the most lighthearted. Well, successfully lighthearted, because Justice League is kind of light, but it fails in that. So I think it's the most successfully lighthearted DC movie, but it fits for what the story is, where we see kids getting a power set. You know what I mean? So it would have been unnerving if it was as heavy as Man of Steel or BVS. Just like the same way Justice League was not great when it's as light as Shazam, right? Like, it's all about balance. I think this movie, for what it is, who the characters are involved in the first time out, does a fantastic job balancing everything. And so, like I said, because of that, because it does those things well, I think WB should be able to, like, greenlight the next one with a substantial budget, and we should get to see a lot of the things that were bigger issues for me, and I think Side 2, rectify this next time around with the bigger bad coming up.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have said that a lot. You guys have said, like, basically everything that really could be said about it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. No problem. I'm just simply saying. I don't want to... I don't have too much to add for the audience. I can summarize my things pretty quick. Like this, I thought the first and third acts were just okay in this movie. The first act, because I just thought it was kind of... Yeah, for different reasons. The first act I just thought was kind of slow. And I realized I realized everything that happens needs to happen in it to properly set up both the villain and the hero, as well as establish the whole family dynamic that they're working for. And so I'm fine and I accept it and everything like that. It's just, I just like felt very much like, okay, let's get him to the wizard already. And then the third act, it's been mentioned, like the 90 million budget shows, like there's spotty CGI and stuff like that. But the biggest thing about the third act, which I touched on the previous recording we did for Captain Marvel, I am, especially when it comes to superhero movies, I own this, am a snob in terms of fight choreography and potentially visual effects to enhance the fight choreography of these superpowered beings. And so that and the score of the film, the music within the film, like that, not like where there's something's used like a song we all know, but the actual background music of the film. I
can't even remember, honestly. It's super forgettable.
Yes. So
I have
those are two
no
things,
moments stand out for me at all.
Those are two things that can make or break a film for me. And it does not at all make it. It doesn't break it either, because they do everything else so great. Going back to what I was saying, the second act, the whole middle, is great. Like, I have no complaints about it.
I think the third act's great too, apart from the choreography. But, like, the other stuff going around it, the third act's good too.
That's fine.
It's just the choreography and, like, the fight stuff between the CGI and the choreography. It's...
But again, that's a make or break thing.
It is.
So
I'm just saying it's not the entire third act, I don't think.
I get you, but for me personally, that kills the third act, because I'm completely underwhelmed with what I'm getting to see visually for the conflict. Yeah. But yeah, going back to that, the music and the fighting, how they visually realize it. I gotta go with probably for the actual choreography. I have to go. Probably a 1.5 again. No, definitely no higher than a 2. And then with for the score, I probably got to go 0 on that. There's nothing stand out about that score.
I can't think of any moment.
There's nothing particularly rising. It sounded akin to the 1978 Superman. It sounded in that kind of vibe, and that fits
like the upbeat.
That fits that time. I prefer to see stuff more modern, but that's
especially because so many of the other DC scores are actually they're so good.
Yeah. But that actually kind of leads me to something else that I thought we could do really quick. So now we got a good few movies in this universe.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't do this after Aquaman. I think I can't remember.
Did. We ranked the top 3 DC.
Well, I was just gonna kind of rank overall.
We just did top 3 with Ox.
Yeah, but I was gonna say. Well, I guess we don't have to do top overall because we probably know what we know what the bottom 2 are, without a doubt, for sure.
Theatrical releases, because that's a little tougher.
I'm saying for the full realized version of the movie, whether that's what we got on a DVD or a Blu-ray or what we got in the theater. So yeah, I'm taking out the theatrical.
I only do theatrical releases because that's what this movie was. It was a theatrical.
I got you, but I said we're talking about just the DC stuff, period. So let's simplify it and just say of these films.
Okay.
I think we can all say Justice League and Suicide Squad are in the bottom. So for me, I'll say I'll go this way. I still have to go Man of Steel first. Batman v Superman second. I have Wonder Woman third, and I put that on a tier in and of itself. I think those are the top tier things that they've released so far. Right under that, I would put Aquaman and Shazam now, and then under that, we got the Suicide Squad Justice League that we can barely even need to talk about. What about you guys?
So we're talking overall, or are you talking about scores?
Not music. I'm talking about the overall film.
Okay.
I
mean, mine's slightly different. Yes, the bottom 2 is obviously Justice League and Suicide Squad, and yeah. Anyway,
it's competition to what takes the bottom spot sometimes.
I still think Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I would definitely put Suicide Squad. So here's the thing.
Suicide Squad.
Because it's so disappointing.
No, but if we're just talking about worst film, Justice League is more disappointing, but Suicide Squad is by far the worst film.
I can't argue with that.
That's where I'm at with it too. If we're talking about just what comparable is a bigger disappointment, obviously Justice League takes the cake.
Well, that's gonna be number 1 on my list for overall across so many genres.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, just talking about in terms of movie, Suicide Squad is just
god awful, just terrible altogether. But anyway, so my favorite as far as what we've gotten from the DCEU goes, Batman vs Superman, obviously the Ultimate Edition, not what we got as a theatrical version. Then I would go Man of Steel. I know you, Chuck, you put Wonder Woman in that same tier as those two. I kind of put those as their own tier. I wouldn't really put Wonder Woman in the same tier as those two. And then I would go, and again, some people might talk about the anti-woman thing that really has nothing to do with it, but I would personally put Aquaman and then Wonder Woman. But I would put Wonder Woman as a very close, if someone,
they are close.
Yeah. And then I would go Shazam, and yeah, that would kind of. Am I forgetting anything? I don't think I'm forgetting anything.
No. There hasn't been too many.
There hasn't been that many. Yeah, no, that's it.
So yeah, that would basically be my order in which I would put those things.
How about you, Kels?
For me, like I said, I'm going to do them based off of theatrical release because
so
now you're just being different.
No, well, because here's the thing: is we haven't seen like what if Shazam comes out later and it's got like a new thing they redo CGI and stuff like that.
Then I offer my right to change my opinion.
Right, but I'm just saying I have two separate lists. I have lists for movies that I saw in theaters and movies that I saw not in theaters at home when stuff has come out later. Because it also could be something where, like, for some reason, we get a Snyder cut of Justice League at some point. That's not going to stop me from ranking the Justice League that I saw in theaters as one of the worst and most disappointing movies that I've seen.
I feel like
but I mean, the discussion we're having right now is what DCEU has released so far. Like, that includes...
I got that. But... They've released both of them so far. They've released them both.
Well, okay, if we're gonna do it that way, then my list goes BVS Ultimate Edition, then it goes Man of Steel, then it goes Aquaman, then Wonder Woman, then Shazam, then BVS the theatrical release, and then everything else kind of after that.
That's not Justice League still.
Yeah.
Do you want to just do it that way?
I don't understand why you're both getting all up in arms about this. I already said this is what I was going to do from the jump.
I thought
we clarified that that's not what we were doing. I know that's what you mentioned you wanted to do, but I thought we clarified that that's ultimately not what we were doing. But I don't.
Fine, it won't be what I do.
Okay.
Okay. So then, if I'm doing the Ultimate Edition, I think Man of Steel is the first, and then I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Man of Steel, then Wonder Woman, and then as two on one tier, and then after that on the under tier, I'm gonna have BVS, Aquaman, and Shazam all kind of on the same tier. But in order for those ones,
Oh, that wasn't the order that you'd have them?
No. I'm just saying really those three are on the tier.
She's really breaking down this, like...
And you called both BVSs just BVSs, so which one is in the upper tier and which one's in the second tier?
I'm only doing the Ultimate Edition.
Okay, okay.
So I think kind of like how you did, like... You did your top three where Man of Steel, BVS, and Wonder Woman were on one, and then, like, second that was Aquaman and Shazam. I'm just doing Man of Steel and Wonder Woman on one, with Man of Steel being number one. And then, like, right under that, the next three that are all super close for me are BVS, Aquaman, and Shazam.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I think... Here's my thing. My thing is with those movies, all three of them, I feel like the final... Or, like, the action overall. I guess the same thing can be said with Wonder Woman, too. But that movie, tonally and everything else, was fantastic. So, it's different. But at least with Aquaman and Shazam, for both of them, the end fights are disappointing. Like, Aquaman's got good action, like, in the middle. But, like, that final one between him and Orm, it's a letdown. With Shazam, this final one and this, the choreography and stuff, it's a letdown. You know what I mean? So they're kind of like the same tier. The only thing I will say is I think Shazam is better in terms of being a more complete story in terms of like characters, like what we get to see and like them actually like moving forward in the story. The humor, I think, fits a little bit better. I think the humor in Shazam is more natural because it fits the character more. The humor in Aquaman isn't as natural because it doesn't really fit Aquaman's character as much. You know what I mean? So I think I'm going to do Shazam and Aquaman. There we go. Basically all that to say. Shazam, then Aquaman.
All right. Okay. Our rankings are all overall pretty similar. Also say I'm hopeful for the, what's to come next in the universe.
Go see Shazam when it comes out.
Yeah, for sure.
It is a good enough movie. You should go see it.
Definitely go see it. And then,
yeah, the one thing I will say, though, is it was funny, because as I was getting out of it, since this was an early viewing, all the times across the country were the same. So, like, as I was checking Twitter, as I was waiting for the post-credit scenes to to end, I saw other people who got early access tickets talking about what they had seen. And one person, I feel like they had smoked crack before they watched Shazam, because they made the bold claim that Shazam was the best DCEU movie to date. And I just did not... I don't get... And again, I'm not saying Shazam's bad, because it's not. I just don't get how after you watch Shazam, you make that conclusion.
Especially given what we've already said about the budget. Like, it was already at a disadvantage because WB already kind of put like a, what's it called on it?
You mean like a handicap?
Yeah. You know what I mean? So I even like just that alone, like how can you...
So here is their full statement.